All right, Algebra 1. Hey, welcome back, guys. We are officially jumping into Chapter 4. Okay, so we are in Section 1 of Chapter 4, and this is titled Solve Inequalities Using Addition and Subtraction, which you're going to find out very soon that the method is exactly the same as if it were an equal sign, except now we're going to replace that equal sign with an inequality sign. Okay? Now, an added bonus, we'll say, is that you will have to graph some of these problems on a number line. Okay, so when they say solve and graph, that graphing part means you're graphing it on a number line. All right, so let's jump into the first little part of notes here. So when you're graphing these on a number line, you got to remember that that inequality means something. All right, it's going to mean two different things. The first thing it's going to tell you is whether or not you have to fill in the circle or leave it open. Okay, and it's also going to tell you what direction the arrow needs to go. All right, so if you have a greater than symbol, the arrow is going to the right. If you have a greater than symbol, then that means it's open and going to the right. If you have greater than or equal to, then that means it's going to the right, but it's filled in. All right, now the opposite occurs for less than. If it says less than, go to the left, leave it open. If it says less than or equal to, go to the left and fill it in, close it. Okay, so you can see one of these examples that I wrote here. We got a couple different examples. So we have one, x is greater than or equal to 2. So or equal to means fill it in, above the number 2, greater than, go to the right. Okay, so you can see that's what we're dealing with here. When you have to create your own number lines, a key thing is you have to have arrows at both ends to tell me that it goes infinity in both directions. You also have to show where 0 is. If you don't show where 0 is, then I don't know where the positive side or the negative side is. That's important. You must represent both. And when you put 0 there, that's a marker showing me that everything to the right is positive and everything to the left is negative. Okay, so we have another example right here. If I say x is less than -3, again, there's my arrows for the number line. I show 0. I go left 3 times. That's -3. Leave the circle open. And then I move the arrow to the left. I show clearly arrow moving to the left. Okay? All right. Now, as it says, when you're solving, you're going to solve it the exact same way as we did it with equal signs, except now we have inequalities. Okay? So let's do our first example problem here. And actually, I'm going to take a little time out. All right? All of you guys need to copy all of these notes down. All right? At any point in time, not only can I check and see if you're watching these videos, but I'm going to check and see if you have your notes. Okay? So be ready. Anytime I can check, and that check might equal points or it might equal no points. All right, here we go. First example problem. Write an inequality from the graph. So now I give you the graph, but you have to give me the inequality that could represent that graph. All right, so let's jump into our first thing here. We're going to start by writing an x. We see that we are using the number 4, but I'll tell you one thing that I noticed just as a quick mistake. There should be a negative sign in that 4 because we went to the left of the 0. And I know that there should be a negative sign because I showed 0, meaning anything to the left is a negative. All right, now let's go back to writing that inequality. We are representing x. We're going to fill about that inequality, but we know we're using -4. Now comes, what inequality am I using? I'm going to the right, and I have an open circle. Again, I'm going to the right, and I have an open circle, so that means we are using the greater than symbol. All right, so that is the answer for that graph. Now let's do the next one. Okay, you should see that I am representing a filled in circle, but it's in between 4 and 5. Okay, so we have an x, and if it's in between 4 and 5, we're dealing with 4.5. All right, the decimal, 4.5. It's filled in and it's going to the left. So that means it is less than or equal to. The or equal to means filled in. It's going to the left. That means less than. A lot of times, students may try to figure out, like, is there a little trick that I could use? One trick that kind of works if your mind works this way is if you look, let's go back to this first one. Look at that inequality symbol right there, and then look at the greater than inequality symbol right here. They both kind of look like arrows just pointing to that direction. Okay, so that might work for you. Same thing. Look at the arrow, and then look at the inequality symbol right here. Okay, they both look like arrows going to the left. So maybe that works for you. Okay, all right, let's do our next one. So now we are given the inequality, and now we have to graph the inequality. Okay, so it is a negative 3.5. So I'm going to go left 3 times and then half one more. So we go 1, 2, 3, and then half. So we are right here. Okay, now look at that inequality symbol. It does say or equal to. So that means I have to fill it in. All right, we'll fill it in, and good enough. And now what direction are we going? It says less than. So less than, we are going to the left. Okay, so that works for me. Now, next one, we are solving it and we are graphing it. Okay, so method of solving, imagine that inequality sign is an equal sign. It's the same style. All right, so it says x minus 9. So that means I'm going to have to do plus 9 on both sides. That allows me to cross that out. We now have x. The inequality symbol stays the same, less than or equal to. 3 plus 9 is 12. Okay, and you can see I kind of thought ahead, made that number line a little bit bigger. So we're going to go all the way to 12. We are going to have a filled in circle at 12. Okay, because it does say or equal to, and then it says less than. So we will be going to the left with that arrow. Okay, right. Next, let's take a look at this guy, and that's our last one. Just says solve, so we don't have to worry about graphing this one, just solve it. All right, now I see that the x is on the right-hand side. You're used to having x normally be on the left-hand side. So let's first isolate that x by adding a 1/2 to both sides. That will allow us to cross that out. And basically what we're looking at here is a 1/2 minus 1 greater than or equal to x. So 1/2 minus 1, that would mean I have a half. I take away a full number from it. I'm now going to be at a negative 1/2. Okay, so now we have a negative 1/2 is greater than or equal to x. Now here's where we have to focus up, because the variable should be in the front, but it's not. The order should always go variable, inequality sign, then the number. All right, again, that's variable, inequality sign, then the number. So we just need to rearrange this. Let's rearrange it so we have the variable. We know what the number is, but take a look at what the inequality sign is now doing. All right, now notice down here, the inequality sign, if we imagine it's that alligator, you guys remember that from elementary school? The alligator is eating the negative 1/2, but if you look up here in our answer, it still is, just because we flipped the order around. That's why. All right, so this is what I want your answer to be written as, because it's the variable, the inequality sign, and then the number. All right, so that covers us for section 1, chapter 4. All right, see you guys in the next one.